Sarah pressed herself against the cold brick wall of the gas station, her breath coming in short bursts. Her hands trembled as she clutched her phone, the screen shattered from when Marcus had thrown it across the kitchen 3 hours ago. She'd managed to grab it anyway before running out the back door. The parking lot was nearly empty except for a row of motorcycles lined up near the entrance. Their owners were inside, probably getting coffee or snacks. She needed help, but who would believe her? Marcus was a respected lawyer. Everyone loved him. No one knew what happened behind closed doors. Footsteps approached from around the corner. Sarah's entire body went rigid. She recognized the expensive leather shoes before she saw his face. Marcus had found her. She looked frantically around and spotted a man in his 50s walking toward one of the motorcycles. He wore a worn leather jacket and had grey stubble on his face. Without thinking, Sarah ran toward him. "Please," she whispered, grabbing his arm. "Please don't let him find me." The biker, whose name was Jack, stopped and looked at her. Her face was pale, and there was a fresh bruise forming on her cheekbone. Fear radiated from her eyes. Before we continue, let us know in the comments where you're watching from, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to The Goodness Effect. "Who?" Jack asked quietly. "My husband. He's coming. Please, I'm begging you." Jack glanced over her shoulder and saw a man in an expensive suit striding across the parking lot with purpose. The man's face was twisted in anger, though he was clearly trying to control it in public. "Get behind me," Jack said firmly. Sarah didn't hesitate. She moved behind Jack's broad frame just as Marcus reached them. "Sarah, what are you doing?" Marcus said, his voice smooth but threatening. "You're embarrassing yourself. Come home now." "The lady doesn't want to go with you," Jack said calmly. Marcus looked at Jack with contempt. "This is between me and my wife. Mind your own business." "She asked for help. That makes it my business." Marcus stepped closer, his jaw clenched. "You have no idea who you're dealing with. I suggest you walk away before this becomes a problem for you." Jack didn't move. He stood like a wall between Sarah and Marcus, his eyes steady and unwavering. The tension in the air was thick enough to cut. Other bikers had noticed the confrontation and are starting to come outside. Marcus realized he was losing control of the situation. "Sarah, get in the car. Now." "No," Sarah said, her voice barely audible but firm. It was the first time she'd refused him in 5 years. Marcus's face turned red. He wasn't used to being defied, especially not in public. He took another step forward, but Jack shifted his weight slightly, blocking Marcus's path completely. "You need to leave," Jack said. His tone was still calm, but there was steel underneath. "Do you know who I am?" Marcus hissed. "I'm a partner at Hoffman & Associates. I have connections throughout this city. You're making a massive mistake." 3 more bikers had gathered near Jack's motorcycle. They didn't say anything, but their presence spoke volumes. They stood with their arms crossed, watching Marcus with expressions that made clear whose side they were on. Marcus looked at Sarah with eyes full of rage. "You'll regret this. You think you can just run away? Everything you have is because of me. Your job, your apartment before we married, everything. You're nothing without me." Sarah flinched at his words. They were the same words he'd used countless times to break her down, to make her feel small and powerless. "She's a teacher," Jack said. "That means she shapes young minds every day. That makes her something pretty important in my book." One of the other bikers, a woman in her 40s named Rosa, stepped forward. "Do you need somewhere safe to stay tonight?" she asked Sarah directly. Sarah nodded, tears streaming down her face. Marcus laughed bitterly. "You're going to trust these people? These lowlifes?" "Sarah, look at them. They're probably criminals." "We're veterans," Rosa said coldly. "Every single one of us served this country. What did you do besides learn how to manipulate people for money?" Marcus's face went purple. He pointed at Sarah. "You have 24 hours to come home. After that, I'm freezing all our accounts. You'll have nothing. No money, nowhere to go. You'll come crawling back." "I don't think she will," Jack said. Marcus glared at all of them one more time, then turned and walked back to his BMW. He sat in the driver's seat for a long moment, staring at Sarah through the windshield. Then he started the engine and peeled out of the parking lot, tires squealing. Sarah's knees buckled. Jack caught her before she fell. "I've got you," he said gently. "You're safe now." Sarah sobbed into his jacket while Rosa put a comforting hand on her shoulder. The other bikers formed a protective circle around them, making sure Marcus was really gone. Jack helped Sarah sit on his motorcycle while Rosa went inside to get her some water. Sarah's hands were still shaking so badly she could barely hold the bottle when Rosa returned. "What's your name?" Rosa asked softly. "Sarah Mitchell. I teach 3rd grade at Oakwood Elementary." "I'm Rosa, and that's Jack, who you first talked to. We're part of a veterans motorcycle club. We do charity rides and help out in the community." Sarah looked at the group of bikers surrounding her. They weren't what she expected. Yes, they looked tough with their leather jackets and tattoos, but their eyes were kind. They were treating her with more respect and care than her own husband had shown in years. "How long has he been hurting you?" Jack asked. Sarah's voice cracked. 3 years. It started small, yelling, breaking things. Then it got worse. Today she touched the bruise on her face. "Today I fought back for the first time. I pushed him away and ran. I didn't even grab my purse. I just ran." Jack nodded slowly. "You did the right thing. Running was brave." "I don't feel brave, I feel terrified." He meant what he said. "He'll freeze our accounts. I have maybe $40 in my classroom desk drawer. That's it. And school doesn't start again until Monday. I have nowhere to go." Rosa exchanged a look with Jack. "Our clubhouse has a spare room. It's not fancy, but it's safe. You can stay there as long as you need. I can't ask you to do that. You don't even know me." "You don't have to ask. We're offering," Jack said. "Besides, you remind me of someone." Sarah wiped her eyes. "Who?" Jack's expression darkened briefly. "My sister. Her husband hurt her for years before she finally left. I wasn't around to help her then because I was deployed overseas. I promised myself if I ever saw someone in the same situation, I wouldn't turn away." Sarah felt fresh tears coming. "What happened to your sister?" "She's good now. She got out, rebuilt her life. She's a nurse and has 2 kids. But it took her a long time to heal. That's why we do what we do." Another biker, a younger man named Tommy, spoke up. "We've helped 12 women in the last 2 years get away from bad situations. We know lawyers who do pro bono work for domestic violence favors. We know shelters and resources. You're not alone in this." Sarah couldn't believe what she was hearing. These strangers were offering her more help in 15 minutes than her own family had in years. Her parents had met Marcus and thought he was perfect. They'd never seen the monster behind the charm. Jack pulled out his phone. "First thing we need to do is document that bruise. Take photos for evidence. Then we need to get you somewhere Marcus can't find you tonight." Sarah nodded. Rosa took several photos of the bruise on Sarah's face and the marks on her arms where Marcus had grabbed her. "Tomorrow we'll take you to the police station and help you file a report," Rosa said. "But tonight, you need rest." "He'll look for me," Sarah said, panic creeping back into her voice. "He knows where my friends work. He knows my routines. He doesn't know about us," Jack said. "And our clubhouse isn't listed anywhere publicly. You'll be safe." Sarah looked at these people who had appeared in her life like guardian angels. "Why are you doing this?" "Really?" Tommy answered. "Because everyone deserves to feel safe in their own home. Because violence is never okay. And because we can. It's that simple." Jack's phone buzzed. He looked at the screen and frowned. "I need to make a call. Give me a minute." He walked a few steps away and started talking quietly into his phone. Rosa sat next to Sarah. "I know you're scared. That's normal. But I want you to know something. What you did today, running and asking for help, that was the hardest part. From here things will get better. Slowly, but they will." "How do you know?" "Because I was you once," Rosa said quietly. 20 years ago, different man, same situation. A group of people helped me get out. That's why I joined this club. To pay it forward." Sarah felt something shift inside her. Maybe she really could survive this. Maybe this nightmare could end. Jack returned. "Okay, I talked to my friend who's a lawyer. She specializes in domestic violence cases. She's willing to meet with you tomorrow morning, no charge. She'll help you get a restraining order and start divorce proceedings if that's what you want." Sarah's eyes widened. "That fast?" "That fast. She's good at what she does. Her name is Jennifer Castro, and she doesn't mess around." Sarah took a shaky breath. "Okay, yes, I want that." "Good," Jack said. "Now let's get you to the clubhouse. You'll ride with Rosa, I'll follow behind. Tommy and the others will split up and make sure Marcus isn't following us." The bikers moved with practiced efficiency. They weren't just kind people, they were organized and knew exactly what they were doing. Sarah realized they'd done this before, probably many times. The clubhouse was a simple building on the outskirts of town, surrounded by trees. Inside it was clean and welcoming. There were photos on the walls of the club members at various charity events, riding in Parus, visiting children's hospitals. Rosa showed Sarah to the spare room. It had a comfortable bed, a small dresser, and its own bathroom. There are clean towels in the cabinet, and some basic toiletries. We keep supplies here for situations like this. Tomorrow we can get you whatever else you need. Sarah sat on the bed. The adrenaline was wearing off, and exhaustion was setting in. I should call the school. Let them know I might not be in on Monday. You're a teacher? Tommy asked from the doorway. Yes. 3rd grade. I love my kids. Sarah's voice broke. What if Marcus goes to the school? What if he causes a scene there? Jack appeared behind Tommy. We'll talk to the principal tomorrow and explain the situation. Schools deal with this more often than you'd think. They'll have protocols to keep you safe. Rosa handed Sarah a phone. It's a prepaid cell. Clean number. Marcus won't have it. You can use it to make calls. Sarah took the phone with trembling hands. I don't know how to thank you all. You don't need to thank us, Jack said. Just focus on taking care of yourself. After the others left, Rosa stayed. Do you want to talk, or would you rather be alone? Sarah thought for a moment. Talk, I think. Being alone with my thoughts right now feels dangerous. Rosa sat in the chair by the window. Tell me about teaching. What made you want to do it? For the next hour, Sarah talked. She talked about her students, about the joy she felt when a struggling child finally understood a concept, about the drawings they made her, and the notes they wrote. Teaching was the one part of her life Marcus hadn't poisoned. He'd tried, constantly belittling her career and her salary, but Sarah had held on to it fiercely. Those children were her light in the darkness. He hated that I loved my job, Sarah said. He wanted me to quit and stay home. Said I was wasting my time with other people's kids, when I should be having his children. But I couldn't imagine giving up teaching. It was the only thing that kept me sane. Good, Rosa said firmly. Hold on to that. You're going to need it in the coming weeks. Sarah nodded. She was starting to feel the weight of everything that lay ahead. Legal battles, rebuilding her life, facing Marcus's anger and manipulation. But surrounded by these people who'd shown her such unexpected kindness, she felt something she hadn't felt in years. Hope. Sarah barely slept. Every sound made her jump, convinced Marcus had somehow found her. But morning came peacefully. Sunlight streamed through the window, and she could hear voices in the main room of the clubhouse. When she emerged, she found Jack making coffee and Tommy cooking breakfast. Rosa was on her phone taking notes. Morning, Jack said. How'd you sleep? Not great, but better than I expected. That's normal. It'll get easier. He poured her a cup of coffee. Jennifer Castro can meet us at 10. Rosa's been coordinating with a police officer who specializes in domestic violence cases. She'll meet us after we see the lawyer. Sarah sipped the coffee. It was strong and bitter, but somehow perfect. You all have your own lives, your own families and jobs. How do you have time for all this? Tommy flipped a pancake. We make time. Jack owns a construction company. Rosa's retired military. I'm a mechanic. We all have flexibility. And we all have the same belief that letting people matters more than being busy. Sarah felt tears prick her eyes again. I've been teaching my students about kindness and community for years, telling them to help others and stand up for what's right. But I stopped believing those things were real. My marriage made me cynical. They're real, Jack said. You just had one bad person in your life making you forget that good people exist too. Rosa hung up her phone. Okay, I talked to Principal Henderson at Oakwood Elementary. She knows the situation and is implementing their safety protocols. Marcus won't be allowed on campus. If he tries, they'll call police immediately. She also said to tell you that you've got as much time off as you need, and your job is secure. Sarah pressed her hand to her mouth. She said that. She said more than that. She said, you're one of the best teachers they've ever had, and the whole school is behind you. Sarah broke down crying. Jack and Rosa let her cry, not rushing to comfort her or tell her to stop. They understood she needed this release. After breakfast, they drove to Jennifer Castro's office. The lawyer was in her 50s with sharp eyes and a no-nonsense demeanor. Sarah, I've reviewed what Jack told me last night, Jennifer said. First, you need to know that what happened to you is not your fault. Second, you have legal options. I'm going to help you get a temporary restraining order today. We'll file for divorce next week, and we're going to make sure you're protected. He's going to fight this, Sarah said. He's a lawyer too. He knows the system. Jennifer smiled coldly. So do I, and I'm better at it than he is. By noon, Sarah had filed a police report and received a temporary restraining order. Marcus was legally required to stay away from her workplace, and the clubhouse. Violating it would mean jail time. Jennifer had also contacted Marcus's firm about his behavior. While they couldn't discuss the details publicly, Jennifer made it clear that any attempts by Marcus to professionally retaliate against Sarah would result in serious consequences for him and his firm. When they returned to the clubhouse, Sarah felt different. Still scared, still uncertain, but no longer helpless. She had people on her side. She had legal protection. She had a plan. Jack gathered everyone in the main room. Sarah, I want you to meet some other women who've been through similar situations. They're part of our support network. 3 women joined them. Each one had been where Sarah was now. Each one had rebuilt their lives with the help of the Veterans Motorcycle Club. They shared their stories. The pain, the fear, but also the triumph of escaping and healing. They told Sarah about the challenges ahead, the court dates, the emotional roller coaster, the moments of doubt. But they also told her about the freedom on the other side, the joy of living without fear. One woman, Maria, said something that stuck with Sarah. You think you've lost everything, but you've actually lost nothing, except a man who hurt you. Everything else, all the good stuff, that's still there waiting for you. Your career, your dreams, your future, it's all still possible. Over the next 2 weeks, Sarah stayed at the clubhouse. The bikers helped her get a new bank account that Marcus couldn't access. They helped her find a small apartment she could afford on her teaching salary. They went with her to retrieve her belongings from the house while police stood by. Marcus tried to contact her repeatedly, violating the restraining order. Each violation was documented and reported. His law firm eventually asked him to take a leave of absence when the extent of his behavior became clear. Sarah returned to teaching. Her students were thrilled to see her, and her colleagues provided quiet support. The principal had briefed the staff without sharing details, and everyone made sure Sarah felt safe and valued. 3 months after that day in the gas station parking lot, Sarah stood in front of the Veterans Motorcycle Club at one of their weekly meetings. I came here to say thank you, she said. When I whispered those words to Jack, asking him not to let Marcus find me, I was at my absolute lowest point. I felt worthless and trapped. But you showed me what real strength looks like. It's not domination or control, it's compassion and action. You didn't just save me that day, you showed me how to save myself. Jack smiled. You did the hard part. We just stood beside you. That's exactly what I needed, Sarah said. Someone to stand beside me until I remembered how to stand on my own. The divorce was finalized 6 months later. Marcus had to attend anger management classes and had restrictions on his law license. Sarah flourished in her freedom. She joined the club's volunteer efforts, helping them reach other women in abusive situations. A year after meeting Jack, Sarah organized a community awareness event at her school about domestic violence. Jack and his club members spoke to parents and teachers about warning signs and how to help. Sarah told her story publicly for the first time, hoping it might give someone else the courage to run, to ask for help, to believe that escape was possible. The local news covered the event. Sarah's story spread across social media. Thousands of people shared it, commented on it, were moved by it. Many survivors reached out to thank Sarah for speaking up. Others thanked Jack and his club for proving that heroes come in unexpected forms. Sarah never forgot that moment in the gas station parking lot when she grabbed a stranger's arm and begged for help. She never forgot the way Jack stood between her and Marcus without hesitation, or how Rosa and the others surrounded her with protection and kindness. Those bikers had given her more than safety. They'd given her proof that good people exist, that asking for help isn't weakness, and that a whispered plea to a stranger can change everything. Marcus's expensive suit and connections meant nothing in the face of genuine human decency. Jack's worn leather jacket held more honor than Marcus's entire facade. Sarah rebuilt her life one day at a time. She bought a small house. She adopted a dog. She traveled during summer breaks to places she'd always wanted to see. She laughed freely and slept peacefully. She dated eventually, though she was careful and selective. She attended therapy and worked through her trauma. But most importantly, she lived without fear. And every year, on the anniversary of that day, Sarah rode with the Veterans Motorcycle Club on their charity rides. She wore her own leather jacket, a gift from Rosa. On the back, it read, "Survivor, Warrior, Free." Jack rode beside her, and she knew she'd found family in the most unexpected place. A family bound not by blood, but by compassion, courage, and the simple act of one person seeing another's pain and choosing to help. That's what melted millions of hearts about Sarah's story, not just that she escaped, but how she escaped. Not through wealth or influence, but through the kindness of strangers who asked for nothing in return, except the chance to do the right thing. And in a world that often feels dark and dangerous, that reminder that good people exist, that help can come from unexpected places, that one moment of courage can change everything. That's what made people cry, say, and believe again in the power of human goodness. 2 years after Sarah's escape, something unexpected happened. A woman named Elena approached Jack at a gas station. The same gas station where Sarah had first asked for help. The symmetry wasn't lost on Jack as Leyland, trembling and bruised, whispered almost the same words Sarah had spoken. "Please don't let him find me." Jack didn't hesitate. He called Sarah immediately. Within an hour, Sarah arrived at the clubhouse where Elena sat, wrapped in a blanket, looking exactly as Sarah had looked 2 years prior. Sarah sat across from her and took her hands. "I know you're terrified right now," Sarah said. "I know you think there's no way out. I know you feel ashamed and alone. I felt all those things too, but I'm here to tell you that you're going to survive this. You're going to be okay." Elena looked at Sarah with desperate eyes. "How do you know?" "Because I was you. 2 years ago, I grabbed Jack's arm in a parking lot and begged him to help me hide from my husband. These people saved my life. Now we're going to save yours." Elena broke down. Sarah held her while she cried, and the bikers gave them space. When Elena finally calmed down, Sarah told her entire story. She didn't leave anything out: the fear, the shame, the legal battles, the hard days when she wanted to give up. But she also told Elena about the other side, about the peace and freedom waiting for her. "You're a teacher?" Elena asked quietly. "Yes, 3rd grade. What do you do?" "I'm a nurse, or I was. He made me quit 6 months ago. Said I was spending too much time at the hospital and not enough time taking care of him." Sarah nodded. She understood that pattern. Marcus had tried the same thing with her teaching job. Over the next weeks, Sarah became Elena's guide through the process she'd navigated herself. She went with her to police stations and lawyer meetings. She helped her find an apartment and set up a new bank account. She sat with her during panic attacks and celebrated small victories. Rosa watched Sarah work with Elena and smiled at Jack. "She's become one of us now." "She always was," Jack replied. "She just needed time to realize it." Sarah's involvement with the club deepened. She started a formal support group for survivors, meeting twice a month at the clubhouse. Women who'd escaped abusive relationships gathered to share their experiences, offer advice, and remind each other they weren't alone. The group grew from 3 women to 15 within 6 months. Sarah facilitated the meetings, drawing on her teaching skills to create a safe, structured environment where everyone felt heard. One evening, a young woman named Keisha spoke up during a meeting. "I have a question for Sarah. When did you stop being afraid? When did you wake up and not think about him first thing?" Sarah considered the question carefully. It wasn't one moment, it was gradual. "But I remember the first morning I woke up and my first thought wasn't about Marcus. It was about what I wanted to make for breakfast. Such a small thing, but it felt huge. That was probably 8 months after I left." "I'm at 3 months," Keisha said. "I still dream about him finding me." "That's normal. Be patient with yourself. Healing isn't linear. Some days will feel like setbacks, but you're moving forward even when it doesn't feel like it." The support group became known throughout the community. Therapists and police officers started referring women to it. The local women's shelter partnered with the motorcycle club to provide additional resources. Sarah's principal, Mrs. Henderson, approached her one day after school. "I've been watching what you're doing with the survivors group. Have you ever considered speaking to our older students about healthy relationships?" Sarah hadn't, but the idea intrigued her. "You think they'd listen?" "I think they need to hear from someone who's lived through it. We teach them math and science, but we don't always teach them about recognizing warning signs in relationships. Your story could prevent someone from ending up in the situation you escaped." Sarah developed a presentation for high school students about recognizing red flags in relationships, understanding consent, and knowing that asking for help is strength, not weakness. The first time she presented it, she was nervous. But when a 17-year-old girl stayed after to quietly tell Sarah that her boyfriend had been exhibiting some of those warning signs, Sarah knew this work mattered. She started presenting at schools throughout the county. Then neighboring counties reached out. Jack and club members often accompanied her, sharing their perspective on what bystanders could do when they witnessed concerning behavior. During one presentation, a boy raised his hand. Why do people stay in abusive relationships? Why don't they just leave? Sarah had heard this question many times. She never got angry at it anymore, because leaving is dangerous. Most domestic violence murders happen when the victim tries to leave. Because abusers are skilled at making you believe you're worthless without them. Because they isolate you from friends and family. Because they control the money. Because you love who they were when you met them and keep hoping that person will come back. Because our society often blames victims instead of supporting them. Should I keep going? The boy looked uncomfortable but nodded. I never thought about it like that. Most people don't, until it affects them personally. That's why education matters. 3 years after her escape, Sarah was invited to speak at a statewide conference on domestic violence prevention. She stood at a podium in front of 300 people, advocates, law enforcement, social workers, subbers, and told her story. She talked about the gas station parking lot, about Jack's unwavering stance between her and Marcus, about the community of bikers who'd shown her what real strength looked like. She talked about the legal battles and the emotional healing, and she talked about how helping other survivors had helped her heal. When I was in the thick of my abusive marriage, I felt completely alone, Sarah said. I thought I was the only person going through this. I thought I was weak for not leaving sooner. But the truth is, millions of people experience domestic violence. It crosses all boundaries: economic, racial, educational. It can happen to anyone, and that means any of us can be the person someone asks for help. Any of us can be like Jack, standing between a victim and an abuser, saying, "Not today." The audience gave her a standing ovation. Afterward, dozens of people approached her with their own stories, their own gratitude, their own questions about how to help. A documentary filmmaker named Marcus, ironically sharing her ex-husband's name, though this Marcus was kind and thoughtful, approached her about making a short film about her story and the motorcycle club's work. "I think what you're all doing needs to be shared more widely," he said. "Would you be willing to participate?" Sarah looked at Jack, who'd been standing nearby. He shrugged. "It's your story to tell." Sarah agreed. The documentary took 6 months to complete. It featured interviews with Sarah, Jack, Rosa, Tommy, and several other survivors from the support group. It showed the clubhouse, the charity rides, and the community work the bikers did. When it premiered at a film festival, it won an Audience Choice Award. Then it started streaming online. Within weeks, it had been viewed millions of times. Comments poured in from around the world, people thanking Sarah for her bravery, thanking the bikers for their compassion, sharing their own stories of survival, or explaining how they'd helped someone escape abuse. The documentary brought more attention than Sarah had anticipated. News outlets wanted interviews. Other motorcycle clubs reached out asking for guidance on starting similar programs. Survivors from across the country contacted Sarah asking for advice. She felt overwhelmed at times, but Jack reminded her of something important. You don't have to help everyone personally. You've created a model that others can follow. You've shown people it's possible. That's enough. But Sarah couldn't stop herself from responding to as many messages as she could. Each one represented a person in pain, seeking hope. She remembered being that person, desperately needing to hear that escape was possible. One message particularly moved her. It was from a woman named Patricia, who wrote, "I saw your documentary with my daughter. She's 16 and was in a relationship with a boy who was becoming controlling and aggressive. She didn't realize it was abuse, because he never hit her. But after watching your story and hearing you explain emotional and psychological abuse, recognized what was happening. She ended the relationship. You may have saved her from years of pain. Thank you." Sarah read that message to the support group during their next meeting. This is why we share our stories. This is why we speak up, even when it's uncomfortable. Because somewhere, someone needs to hear that they're not alone, and that there's a way out. 4 years after that day in the gas station parking lot, Sarah stood with Jack and the motorcycle club at a ceremony. The city was recognizing their work with a Community Service Award. The mayor spoke about the lives they'd saved and the awareness they'd raised. When Sarah accepted the award on behalf of the group, she looked out at the audience and saw Elena, Keisha, and many other survivors she'd helped. She saw her principal, Mrs. Henderson. She saw Jennifer Castro, the lawyer who'd fought for her. She saw the police officer who'd taken her first report. And she saw Marcus, her ex-husband, sitting in the back row. Her heart jumped, but she didn't look away. He looked older, diminished somehow. After the ceremony, he approached her. "Can we talk?" he asked. Jack immediately stepped closer, but Sarah put a hand on his arm. "It's okay." Marcus looked at Jack with something resembling respect. "I owe you an apology," he said to Sarah. "I owe you more than that. I've been in therapy for 3 years. I've taken responsibility for what I did. I know saying sorry doesn't fix anything, but I need you to know that I see now how wrong I was, how badly I hurt you." Sarah studied him. He seemed genuine, but she'd learned to be cautious. "I appreciate you saying that. I hope you've changed. But my forgiveness isn't something you're entitled to. I know, I don't expect it. I just wanted you to know that watching what you've built, how you've helped others, it made me confront what I did. You took something terrible and turned it into something meaningful." Sarah nodded. "I did that for me, and for other survivors, not for you." "I understand." Marcus turned to leave, then paused. "For what it's worth, I'm glad he was there that day." He gestured to Jack. "I'm glad you got away." After he left, Sarah exhaled slowly. Jack put his hand on her shoulder. "You okay?" "Yeah. Actually I am. Seeing him didn't scare me, it just reminded me how far I've come." That night, surrounded by the people who'd become her chosen family, Sarah reflected on her journey. From that terrified woman whispering a desperate plea to a stranger, to a confident advocate, helping others find their own earn, she'd learned that asking for help wasn't weakness. That accepting kindness didn't make you a burden. That healing was possible, even when it felt impossible. And she'd learned that sometimes the most unlikely people, bikers in leather jackets at a gas station, could become your greatest heroes.